Peter Diamantidis, welcome to Property Insights, mate.
Thank you, Mark.
Now, you're the principal Ray White St Marys.
Correct, yes.
How's things out of St Marys, mate?
Very hot at the moment.
Yeah?
Very hot.
You're talking not temperature, you're talking in terms of the marketplace is hot.
Yeah, correct. With the property market at the moment, we've got an airport coming just around the corner, extremely busy.
So just take me through this. So, for a start, I should ask you, is that all dwellings or is that apartments or just houses or what are we talking about?
I would say, especially houses and say townhouses. Apartments are still strong, but I would say houses are the strongest at the moment.
Right, so, okay. And when you say houses, are you talking about old school houses on 1,000 square metres or quarter acre blocks, that type of thing? Or are you saying all houses of all types, even if they're on 400 or 800 square metres?
Pretty much all types, because you'll have your investors going for your larger blocks, and then you'll have your first home buyers going for your smaller blocks, which might be a little bit newer dwellings.
So why are investors going for larger blocks? Is it because they can put a dual lock on there or something?
Yeah, like granny flats, townhouses, boarding houses, a lot of different configurations.
So is there a new rule out that way that you can effectively subdivide a block of land?
Yeah, well, it's always been like that, Mark. So it's always been like that. But now that, St Marys is on the radar, everyone's just trying to get on the bandwagon and do the same thing.
So why is St Marys on the radar? Tell me through that.
Well, let's go back, say, 6 or 7 years ago, or probably even longer. They announced that an airport's coming to Bouris Creek. St Marys is going to be a major intersection. So pretty much the train station at St Marys is now going to be a major train stop, metro, which means 4 stops to the new airport. So if you're coming from, let's say, Central, if you're coming from the mountains, stop at St Marys, get off, need to get onto the train to get to the airport, which is 14 minutes away.
Right, so it's a hub now. It's
100%.
So St Marys is a hub now. So what's the socio-economics of St Marys residents today, say, compared to what it was 10 years ago?
Okay, well, if you go back 10 years ago, I would reckon you would have had a lot more investors there at the time, a lot more public housing, which a lot of it has now been sold off. Now we're getting a lot of first home buyers. So a lot of first home buyers moving into the area from other parts of Sydney.
Is there jobs there?
A lot of jobs. A lot of jobs, factories, even you got like Amazon. Amazon's 15 minutes away. They're big headquarters from St Marys, yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like St Marys is on fire. I didn't know this. I didn't know any of this sort of stuff. So is it bucking the trend of what otherwise is intended to happen in Sydney with all the interest rate rises?
Oh, 100%. Like if you look at it, like I look at markets all over Sydney, and if you compare this time last year, a bit of Sydney market was choking. Our market's actually increased. We've got low stock levels, higher prices, too many buyers, not enough listings.
Right. Okay. All right. So, yeah, a lot of times price increases are relative to the number of properties that are on the market for sale.
Yes.
So if we're looking at houses, there'd be a limited number of houses in St Marys area.
Correct.
And given that for some reason people are hanging out, they're not selling. I mean, maybe in St Marys especially, because they're probably thinking to themselves, well, I might get a big development dollar off this house one day. Or alternatively, they're not going to get something better to replace it. So I might as well stay here because they would recognise St Marys as growing.
Correct.
So is that the psychology going on out there?
I think so, yes. So the people that are selling are the people which are downsizing, which people are upsizing. The investors who have bought in the last 2, 3, 4 years, staying put. Even with all these rate rises, they're trying to hold on because they know that they're on the verge of something probably spectacular that's going to happen in the area.
Is there high demand for rental?
100%. We manage at the moment over 1,500 properties. We average probably 50 properties every month to be leased, and we've got too many applications.
Right. So why is that the case?
I think it's still affordable in compared to other parts of Sydney, but there's a lot of jobs in that area now compared to 10, 15 years ago. Take the train from St Marys, go to Central, work in the city. You can go to Parramatta, you can go to Penrith, you can go to St Marys, all these factories, all these roads, RMS jobs, everything like that, are all in Western Sydney now.
So tell me through, what does affordable mean then at the moment? Are we talking about $1 million? What are we talking about? A house?
So if you said a house, I could probably get you a house in St Marys or surrounding suburbs, starting from around, let's say, cheapest, probably high 600s.
Right, so 600 grand. So what are we talking about there? Is it a 2-3 bedroom house? Is it brick, or what are we looking at?
3-bedroom, fibro, shack, probably built 1960s, 1970s, fibro, asbestos, they say. But 3 bedrooms, you could get a rent return of nearly, $480, $500 a week?
So it's about 5% return.
Yeah.
Close enough to 5.
Correct.
5% return. But what sort of block of land are we looking at?
550, 600 square metres.
And what's the, I don't want to call it redevelopment, but
Yes.
what's the upside advantage of that size property? What are we looking at?
Well, if you look at 550 to 600, as for for a developer, they probably won't touch it. An investor would, more to add a granny flat, get a dual income, spend $150,000 on a granny flat, get an extra $350 a week return.
Yeah. So is it easy enough to get a granny flat approved?
Yeah, now it's now not through council anymore, CDC compliance. So it's very, very easy. 30-day turnaround, you can have an approval.
Wow. And what you're saying is that there's good demand then to rent that out.
Oh, 100%, yeah, because you've got it's like an apartment. In an apartment, you most likely can't have a pet. In a granny flat, you can have a small little dog, you can have a cat, and it's it's attractive for tenants.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So what would be the average price of a non-fibro?
Non-fibro. Okay, so let's say a brick home. Over the weekend, we had a brick house, North St Marys, 1.6 to the station, 830,000.
1.6 kilometres to the station.
Yep,
Yeah,
1.6.
Yeah.
But that would be a 700 square metre block, good renovated home, solid, 830,000.
What's the bidding like in something like that? So what are they?
Yeah,
was it like on the
okay.
weekend?
So give you a bit of rundown. From Friday till today, our office, we've sold nearly 10 properties. Now, out of the 10 properties, I'd say out of 7 of them, there has been more than 5 to 7 offers placed on those. All private treaty, non-auction.
Right.
So it is now becoming a bit of a bidding war, especially with buyers. So if we put a guide, it would most likely 8 out of 10, so higher than the guide.
So are you saying people are not going to auction or not? No. So vendors aren't using auction?
Correct. No. Well, our average days for an, let's say, private treaty, owner-occupied home is less than 7 days on the market.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you got a client list or something?
We've got I've been out there for 21 years, Mark. So we've had a database, 44,000 clients getting our emails and everything. So before we even get a listing on the market, we've already got buyers that are ready to rock and roll.
So what do? You send out an email? You say, I come along and I've got my property for sale and it's a nice house and it suits 40 of your clients.
Yes.
What do you send an email out to them with a photograph of my property?
Yeah, so what we do is straight away, we don't even have to take a photo. So we'll contact our hottest buyers. It could be the people that have missed out on past open houses. Contact them, then start the text messages, then start the emails, then start the pre-registration. By Saturday comes, you've got a list of buyers without even coming onto realestate.com.
Yeah, so you don't even need to... you don't even need to advertise on it.
No. So I looked at numbers before I came here. Out of 248 properties sold since January, 39...
By you guys?
By our office, yeah. I think it was 39 was being sold off market. No marketing costs, no photos, no nothing, just basically straight to our database.
Wow. So do you think this is going to keep going?
I think so at the moment. I think unless there's going to be a glut of properties coming onto the market... but at this stage, in my area, where we are at the moment, I can't see it slowing down anytime soon.
I talk to other agents in other parts of Sydney and Australia, for that matter, and but different price brackets. They're telling me, or they expect, come September this year, that there'll be a lot of property for sale, especially if you get 1 or 2 more rate rises. What do you think about that?
I reckon, and we're already finding that I'm finding a little bit more investors compared to last year, which, they need to sell, or owners that may need to sell. Definitely, it's going to occur. But I just think in our area where we are at the moment, from the 1st of July, as some people have known, first home buyers up to $800,000, no stamp duty. That's going to probably...
As of after 1st of July.
Yes, correct, after 1st of July. Yeah. Meaning, at the moment, it's 650 cap, 800. There's a lot of buyers there still waiting till that 1st of July. I reckon that there's going to be a bit of a spur. maybe September, you might be right. You might find that, a few more interest rate rises might get some people onto the market. But I can't see that at the moment.
But you're out there in the market, you're talking to all these vendors. I mean,
Yes.
that's your game. You have to get vendors, otherwise you've got no sale.
Correct.
You're out there in the marketplace. I mean, how do you talk? I mean, how do you talk to vendors? Like,
Well-
what's your process?
Okay, so my process is pretty much when I get called in, Mark's called me in, let's have a look at the property. Why are you selling, Mark? Okay, well, I'm relocating or I'm doing things. If it's to do with, hey, I need to sell, I can't afford my repayments, of course, we look at the game plan. Where are you going to move to? Can we find your rental property? So you just got to basically play the game and see which angle they're going. Are they upsizing? Are they downsizing? Do we get it onto the market? Well, who's going to buy the property? There's a lot of questions in place to get to that stage.
What about before that, though? What about before they make the decision to sell?
Yes.
How do you talk to potential vendors like you? I mean, do you sort of have coffee with them, or do you have little seminars with them, or do you check in with people, say, "How you going?" I mean, and how do you get a sort of a lead on the vendor's game, say months in advance? Can you do that?
Well, not really. Like, I get calls nearly every day from people that I've known. Like, if I've sold their property 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 18 years ago, and they'll always ask me, Peter, we're looking at moving, Sunshine Coast, we're getting closer. So I'll keep in contact with them to keep them up to date with the market. In the last probably 8 weeks, I've been really, really hitting them, saying, listen, I know you're moving towards the end of the year. I think the time is now. I think we're really there. So let's have a delayed settlement. Let's get you, let's rent. I know you don't want to rent a place, but if I could tell you that you're going to gain an extra, 60,000 now, will you move? So these are the questions and that. So you get a bit of an upper hand, but like today, I've got 4 appraisals after here, and I've just been called in over the weekend.
Yeah. So do you find? But have you seen, like, after the last rate rise, the one in June?
Yes.
And maybe you're going to get one in July. But have you seen any shift in people's mentality towards maybe it's time to sell?
There has been, especially from some investors. Like I mentioned before, investors, yes. I haven't had too many owner-occupiers living in the house saying, hey, I now can't afford it. But the investors have been. And I think the ones with multiple properties that we manage are the ones now saying, let's pull the trigger. And a lot of them are starting to pull the trigger. End of June, pay tax the next financial year, to postpone that.
So do you think that they're pulling the trigger because they're saying now is the time to reduce my interest rate exposure, or do you think they're just saying now's the time to capitalise on the best prices possible? I
think it's in some cases both, but I think some of them are the interest rates, because it may not be the house in St Marys which has gone up maybe $200 over the last year, but it could be the house in, let's say, Double Bay that they own, which has gone up $2,000.
Yeah.
So they're cutting off certain I call them extras, which could be properties which have already gone up in value, but they're doing that to then, as I said, save their own pretty much their own home in other areas.
And they can take the capital gain and reduce their principal.
Yeah, correct.
On their current property, which has probably got a much bigger mortgage on it. So where do your investors come from?
Okay, so I would say our investors, different types. I would say if you go back 5-6 years ago, or even 10 years ago, a lot of them are interstate. Now, pretty much Sydney. So anywhere from, say, the heart of Parramatta up to the east, we get a lot. Anyone from, let's say Double Bay. I'll give you an example. Double Bay in those areas, a lot of them are using buyer's agents. So we would probably sell to maybe, 5 out of our 50 properties a month to buyer's agent groups all over Sydney. But, we still get interstate investors. We don't have, let's say, the Chinese investors in our market or overseas investors, but I would say, majority of them are coming from heart of Parramatta, moving out west as first home buyers, or investors that are more into the inner west or eastern suburbs.
So what your postcodes,
Yes.
your dealer postcodes for your franchise?
Yes.
Where do you cover apart from St Marys? I mean, what are the immediate areas?
Okay, so the immediate areas, you've got St Marys. You've got Oxley Park. Oxley Park is like a branch off St Marys. You've got an area called Warrington. I always laugh and say Warrington's going to be the new Warringah. Just the prices are skyrocketing. Kingswood. You got Penrith, even Blacktown. But if you look at the last 12 months, our office, and especially myself, I've sold in 31 suburbs in 12 months. So I've got people asking us to sell in Campbelltown, Cashula, Marsden Park, and some of these areas that we take on because we've got that relationship with the client.
Yeah, so prognosis going forward.
Yep.
What do you reckon is going to happen over the next 12 months in your zone?
12 months, definitely if you said 12 months from today, if rates continued on as they are, then of course there will be hurt.
Well, I reckon let's say we've got one more rate rise in it, so and it stops there.
Okay, one more rate rise, nothing else changes. I think, as I said, you'll find more people come on, and I reckon that will be towards the end of the year.
Towards the calendar year,
Yes.
end of the calendar year,
Yes.
you reckon there'll be more vendors come into
Correct.
the marketplace.
Correct.
And I think you said it earlier. It's more reasons for that would be more a combination of capitalising on the really good pricing at the moment,
Yes.
and or a bit of pressure to sell maybe based on other assets that they own. What do you think price is going to do though?
As I said, if there's more properties coming on, I reckon we're not going to have this increase. Like, let's say in my market from January to where we are sitting now, let's say we've had an increase of 10%, 8 to 10%. I reckon that will remain the same.
Is this last 12 months?
No, just from, let's say, the last 6 months. I've just found, in our area, we've nearly had a 10% increase. And the way we work this out is we look at similar properties that were sold in January compared to now, and they've jumped nearly 10. So I reckon, as I said, the prices will probably remain the same. I can't see them increasing any further. I reckon this is the time right now.
Yeah, to capitalise on the best.
100%.
It is an optimisation time right now in terms of pricing. Do you see the prices? What would you expect to see that we need or is needed for prices to fall and make it more affordable in the area?
More affordable.
What would happen? What do we need, like a recession or?
Well, I reckon you would. You're probably right.
Unemployment.
Employment. I don't know. Really, it's hard one to answer, Mark, because really only recessions you'll find that, like the GFC and that, you'll see prices just plummet, very, very fast. But that would be probably the only thing. I reckon a recession, of course.
A recession,
Yeah.
like a actual moderate recession as opposed to a technical one. And just to finalise all this, Peter, do you remember the first time you bought a property?
Yes, I clearly do. It was on my 18th birthday at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. And what did you buy?
I bought a 2-bedroom unit in Mount Druitt for $167,000.
Wow. And you still got it?
That one I don't, but I have kept, probably the third property I ever bought, and everything else after that.
How many properties you got?
At the moment, just over 40.
40 properties?
Yes, correct.
You bought 40 properties?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Started at the age of 18, bought my first one, got into property developing at the age of 23, and still buying properties.
And you still developing?
Still developing, only on a smaller scale. So I'd say, blocks of, townhouses, house and land packages, things like that, whenever I can. But I'm pretty much now, 95% focused on the business.
On your AY business?
Correct.
Now, selling?
Yeah, selling, but also helping my team grow.
Yeah. And how big is your team now?
Team now's 34 staff. We started in 2021 with 4 staff.
Wow, well, you've grown tremendously.
Yes.
And how much of that do you put down to the fact that you've got a massive, big new airport being built there? How much does that help you?
Well, that's helped a lot, but the biggest secret weapon is our staff, our team, the young generation. Most of them are under the age of 25, hungry to learn, which have got their names out into the community.
Well, Peter Diamantidis, thanks very much, mate. It's been quite enlightening.
Thank you, Mark, for having me on here. Appreciate it.